So this is it, the final race of the 2015 FF2M season at Monza, and a feature race which saw 5 championship contenders whittled down to just 3, James Clark, Väinö Kimminen, and an outside shot for Max Verstappen. And what a season it has been, with no less than 11 winners. And a recap of those: Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon, Sam Bird, James Clark, Nicholas Latifi, Pascal Wehrlein, Oliver Rowland, Mattia Alfonsi, Cristobal Alvarez, Caterina Caracciola, and Väinö Kimminen, the most recent winner of the season. And what an important win that could be. However, James Clark has the advantage in the championship for 2 separate reasons. One, he has got more wins than Väinö Kimminen, 3 more to be exact, and for the sprint race, he is one of 7 drivers on soft tyres. Here's a quick glimpse of the championship standings so far. There you can see Clark and Kimminen on 75 points each, Clark on 4 wins, Kimminen on 1, and there's Max Verstappen, who had led the championship for a very, very long time, but some ropey performances in Hockenheim and more recently in Spa means that he is 5 points behind, but he does still have a chance. And he might well be on the soft tyres. We'll have to confirm that later on. But it's Cristobal Alvarez who starts from pole position ahead of Sergei Sorokin. There's the championship leader Clark 3rd ahead of Esteban Ocon 4th. Then we got Max Verstappen 5th ahead of Caterina Caracciola. And then Sam Bird 2nd. And the feature race winner Väinö Kimminen starting 8th, but on the slower hard tyres. Pierre Gasly starts 9th ahead of Mattia Alfonsi 10th, who had a bit of a messy race in the feature. Rio Haryanto took out his own teammate on his way to 11th, Jolyon Palmer 12th, then we got Robin Freins 13th ahead of Oliver Rowland 14th. Next up is Roberto Merri 15th, who shunted into his own teammate in the feature into the Rettifilia. Mitch Evans 16th, then Pascal Wehrlein 17th, Oliver Turvey, the unfortunate one in that GRM collision, 18th, Daniel Kvyat 19th ahead of Nick Yaloli 20th, and in the back row, Genjo Se and Nicholas Latifi. So here we go, 12 laps to decide the 2015 FF2M Championship, and the 5 lights go out. And Alvarez gets away well, but Sorokin has also gotten away well as well. Let's see what happens into the Rettifilio chicane. We saw a big shunt triggered by Väinö Kimminen last time out. They all seem to be a bit more sensible this time, but Kimminen getting a little bit out of shape. But they're all through safely, I believe. Yes, they are. That's a first for Monza. Last year saw Cooper Lee make an absolute charge from last on the grid up to about 5th position, but it is a battle for the lead between Alvarez and Sorokin playing a little bit cautiously. Clark is 3rd, Caracciola up to 4th position from 6th on the grid, so that's a great start from her. And then further back, they're all getting through safely on the Rogier chicane. And look in the background, Clark is on the move already. He's already trying to take Sergei Sorokin for 2nd position. Verstappen down in 8th, and Kimminen down in 7th. Here's Caracciola making a move on James Clark. This wasn't in the script for the Gajera 2 driver. Clark is not defending it, and that's probably sensible. He's hanging on round the outside, and he's off onto the gravel, and nearly spinning into the path of Caracciola. But both survive for the moment, and I think Kimminen's just had an incident. He's gone off at the Ascari. We're not seeing this, we're just seeing a battle between Esteban Ocon and Caracciola. And Max Verstappen is lurking in the background as well. But I think Kimminen has had enough because he's out of the top 8. In fact, there is Kimminen. He's lost his front wing as well. He's going to have to make a pit stop, and surely that is his championship gone. Into the Parabolica, where Nicholas Latifi has got further than he did in the feature race. But in the lead is Alvarez, and Caracciola back up to 4th position. And Clark now at the inside of the pair of them. He's taken Ocon. He's also taken Caracciola. That is up to 3rd position for James Clark, championship elect. As Robin Freins is making a move on one of the drivers there. Kvyat also making a move on Turvey. Now, this is what happens to Kimminen. He's up the inside of Sam Bird, who came 2nd in the feature. In fact, he was way too quick into the corner, off onto the gravel, and into the path of Sam Bird, and he didn't lose his front wing there. Where does he actually lose his front wing? In fact, he might have already lost his front wing. no contact with any other drivers, so it would have been on Sam Bird. As up the inside of Caracciola goes Ocon. That's up to 5th position for the Frenchman, for the Willows junior driver, and now that has put Caracciola under pressure from Sam Bird. Bird on the soft tyres for this race, one of 7 drivers to do so, and they do include James Clark and some other drivers. I think Latifi must be on the softs, because I remember him being on the hards. In fact, Ocon has not managed to shake off the Swiss driver. Caracciola is back in the slipstream going into this new lap as Alvarez sets a new fastest lap. Both STVs on the march, but it's Clark who now sets the fastest lap on a 1:27.5 on those soft tyres. And Caracciola ran the outside this time. In fact, she'd already taken Ocon, but then Ocon had to go back in the slipstream. Now here's Sam Bird, choosing not to take the slipstream at that point. Here's Sorokin versus Clark. Sorokin versus Clark into the Roger chicane, and that was a very clean move for Clark, although he does miss the apex of the first part of Roger. Sam Bird now on the move, on those softs, up the inside of Caracciola into Parabolica, and that is a position gain for Bird. Points up to the top 6 for the sprint race, and they go down from 6 to 1, depending on where you finish. And you get an extra point for fastest lap as well. Caracciola losing another position to Pierre Gasly, and into the Rettifilia chicane. Gasly has got to be careful about Sam Bird in front, but he's cautious enough on the brakes to hold on to that 7th position. Now, is this the battle for the lead, or is this Sorokin versus Verstappen, who spins it? Verstappen spins out, and he's taken Sorokin with him at the second Lesmo. That's going to move Ocon up to 3rd and Sam Bird up to 4th, and surely that is Verstappen's championship challenge over. To that driver there, now about to take the lead of the race. James Clark moving into the lead ahead of Cristobal Alvarez. Alvarez looking for a good send-off before he gets 2 drives in FF2M at Sepang and Shanghai, alongside Kevin Magnussen in the FJR. He would have wanted to have win the final race, but there is Alvarez behind James Clark now. And it's Sam Bird who sets the new fastest lap on a 1:27.342. Now that he's got some clear air, he's going to try and close in on Esteban Ocon. There's the battle between the 2 AJs and one of the Danish racing teams. The Danish racing driver right in between the 2 AJs. And we've got a battle here. That is an AJ up the inside of Oliver Rowland for, well, it was for 9th position, but he lost that position again. Oliver Rowland up to 9th, ahead of Mattia Alfonsi. Here's Roberto Merri now, who has got, and he's been tagged from behind by Daniel Kvyat in the liquid target and spins right into the path of him as an act of karma. What have we got? Ocon versus Bird for 3rd position. That's a nice little rhyme. It looks like he might be able to challenge Ocon into the Parabolica. Ocon also looking for a good send-off because he's had a bit of a dreadful season. Had a good one in the last time out at the feature race. And he'd like to finish off with the top 3, but it is Bird in 3rd now. Bird had a very solid season, not quite as consistent as the other championship contenders. He's had quite a few wins as Bird, he's had 4 already, but quite a few non-points finishes have cost him a little bit. But here comes Ocon coming back at the OLM driver into the Rettifilia chicane. Inside, Bird gives him space, and Bird hangs on round the outside. Further back, we've got Pierre Gasly in 5th, ahead of Caracciola 6th, Palmer 7th, and Haryanto up to 8th. So Haryanto making amends for his sheepish little indiscretion in the feature race, where he took out Nicholas Latifi going into the Parabolica. Bird and Ocon again. Again, Bird hanging on round the outside, but look at Ocon round the outside at the second apex. So retaking 3rd, and now Bird has lost a position to Pierre Gasly. Up to 4th position now goes the Magnum Force driver. I must mention that there are 2 drivers on their way to FF2M next season. None of them are in the top 8. They are Max Verstappen on his way to Willows, and Nicholas Latifi on his way to Pedersen. Up the inside to 3rd now goes Pierre Gasly, French driver. Off the track goes Gasly, and that's put Bird back up to 3rd. And now it's a French onslaught. Gasly versus Ocon, and they better be careful because Katerina Caracciola's on the move. She's up the inside, not quite on Ocon, but now it's Ocon versus Gasly into the parabolica. What's going to happen here? Ocon and Gasly side by side. There's a fourth driver coming into the mix as well. It's Jolyon Palmer, who was an STV driver for a very long time before being sacked and after the first meeting of 2014. Now he's found a happy home with AJ. He's trying to find fourth position off all three of them. Can he do that? That'll be some move. I think Gasly got a tag from Caracciola. Off goes Ocon as well. Ocon jumping the chicane. Palmer up 2 positions overall. But now he's got Caracciola all over the back of him. Caracciola having a look around the outside at Curva Grande. That'll become the inside line for the first part of the Roger chicane. Up the inside now, that is 5th position for the STV Racing driver. Now, can Caracciola do something about Esteban Ocon? It seems unlikely because Ocon is on the softs and Caracciola's stuck on the hards. And this battle for what is now the final point between Palmer, Gasly and Haryanto and Oliver Rowlands to a certain extent. If these drivers get themselves into a bit of a tussle, which they could well do because Gasly's having a look at the inside at Palmer, who shuts the door aggressively on the Frenchman. Maintaining that 6th position for the moment is Jolyon Palmer. At the time of this broadcast, entries for the next FF2M Asia season will open. That'll be Monday the 6th of June. Now at the inside into the parabolica goes Pierre Gasly on Jolyon Palmer. Palmer, I think, is on the softs for this race, so he should theoretically have an advantage, but doesn't seem that way. Because he has got Pierre Gasly up the inside and Oliver Rowlands now at the inside of Haryanto into the Retteville chicane. There's Gasly up to 6th position. Hasn't had a particularly good season, if I'm honest. He hasn't had very many point scores. Got it together at Spa, but overall he's going to have to spend another season FF2M before he gets a drive in FF1M. Up the inside of Palmer goes Oliver Rowland up to 7th position now. The impressive Oliver Rowland, who won his first race at Hockenheim. That was the sprint race. This battle's not over. Now it's for 7th position. Alfonsi's getting himself into the mix as well. Disappointed not to be on the FF1M grid or to still be in championship contention, although Clark's masterpiece on lap 10, so far 8.4 seconds ahead of Alvarez. Looks as if Clark is set for the championship, but anything can happen. All of a sudden, Kinnunen could find himself fighting back through the order and find himself in the points, and then all of a sudden Clark might have a mechanical issue. But Kinnunen so far down the order, that looks hideously unlikely. Now we've got Rio Haryanto looking to retake that position 8th off of Oliver Rowlands into the Roger chicane, but Rowlands sensibly defending. Now Haryanto's coming under pressure from Mattia Alfonsi. Into the parabolica, Alfonsi getting a bit airborne, and off goes his rear wing. That's trying a bit too hard round the outside. Never going to work at the parabolica. Now here comes Genjo Se, who started 21st on the grid. Now he's up to 10th ahead of Rio Haryanto. So that's been some recovery so far, but here is your new world champion. Once he exits the parabolica, James Clark from Altrincham, England, UK, taking the Monza sprint race victory, win number 5, but more importantly, FF2M champion. Congratulations, James Clark and Gajera too, who had won the team's championship at the previous meeting. Right, Sam Bird took Cristobal Alvarez on that final lap because he's finished 2nd, utilising his soft tyres, but Alvarez does get a podium finish on his final FF2M race for a while because he won't be in the FF2M Asia season because he's the champion reigning. He does get 3rd, so that's a good result on his way to FF1M for a couple of races. Ocon 4th ahead of Caracciola 5th, and completing the points is Pierre Gasly. Fastest lap was set by James Clark, unsurprisingly, on those softs, so he gets the full 7 points. And 7 points is the gap between himself and Kinnunen in the end, and Sam Bird's 2nd means that he takes third off of FF1M bound Max Verstappen. He'll be very disappointed not to have won the FF2M Championship. And the other championship contender for a while, Alfonsi 5th, despite a broken rear wing and a bit of a tricky Monza weekend. So that concludes the 2015 FF2M Championship. Entries for the FF2M Asia season will open tomorrow. We look forward to seeing those. Maybe some new teams. There is interest from Atlantic Racing, a potential new team not currently involved in FF1M, and being that they have that status, they do have priority entry for next season's FF2M Asia series, so we look forward to seeing them. So from myself, we shall see you for the next FF2M season.